VMware and to be presented by Jenny Fong.
So, hi, I'm Jenny Fong. I've been at VMware now for 3 years. I originally supported the vSphere product line, but I moved earlier this year to join our vCloud hybrid service team. Just show of hands, how many of you have actually heard about this launch this year? Good, great. So this is something new for VMware. It's definitely something we're really excited about, and we're currently in our early access period, but we're going GA later this year, and that's why I'm here, is to start working with users like yourself. Would most of you consider yourselves vSphere admins today, or working as VI admins or architects? Yeah? Okay. So this is a perfect group to introduce this service to, because we really think we have heard what's challenging admins in their day-to-day lives, and trying to develop a service that's meant to help you guys do your job better, and also bridge the gap between you and the line of business. So I don't know if people will want to admit it, but does anybody feel like they've been a little hesitant to embrace cloud because they weren't sure what it meant for their own job? Anyone? So we hear that a lot. And so what I want to talk about today is why we think that the vCloud hybrid service is a different way to do cloud that actually elevates the importance of the vSphere admin. And so what I want to talk about, I'm going to first go through, these are our standard disclaimers, just take a minute to review them. So what I'll do today is kind of go into the service itself and talk about how it was built, the kind of critical components of the service, and then I'll go into some screenshots so you can see what the new portal looks like. And then we'll talk about the most important part, I think, for you guys, which is why are people looking at it? Who's in our early access program, and who's working with us in beta? What were they trying to do with the service? Maybe give you guys ideas of what it might mean to yourselves and your own jobs. So I talk about this a lot, but there's a lot of demands out there from the lines of business these days to be able to respond fast to different market trends, to new competitors, to new business ideas that come up. And so I think a lot of that pressure from the line of business for speed has driven businesses towards looking at cloud for that agility, right? The ability to consume on demand. And at the same time, a lot of you in your IT roles tend to have to be the ones who think about, but how does this work under the umbrella of IT? How do we make this new project fit our governance and compliance rules? How do we make all of these applications not just run day one, but for day one through the end of the life? And so I think there's a sort of split between need for speed versus the need for something that is maintained and controlled and operationalized. And so that's where we feel like we hit this chasm between the two business groups. And what vCloud hybrid service is really about is bridging that gap. So how do we give the agility that the line of business needs, while also providing IT ability to continue to manage that security, compliance, operationalization, I can't talk this morning, with the same solution. So it's really about bridging that gap between one and the other. And what I want to show today is sort of more of the admin perspective, like what does it mean to you guys who are comfortable with vSphere products, who may be getting pressure to adopt cloud, and how does this actually help your job? And really it comes down to us being able to deliver a cloud service that is built on the same platform that you're already comfortable in using today. So if you have vSphere in your data center, or you've built processes around your virtual environment, the beauty is a lot of that will just be easily transportable into the vCloud hybrid service, because we're building on that same stack and the same foundation. So what that means is anything that you have virtualized today on vSphere will work and run in our vCloud hybrid service. Not only that, we have some great networking capabilities that actually take the networking topologies that you've already created internally and also carry that into the service as well. And I'll talk about that in a little more detail. But for you guys that work with vCenter, work with vSphere client today, one of the beauties of this service is that we're really thinking about how do we make it a one-stop shop to manage both your on-premise and off-premise environment. So you can what we're really driving towards is common management tools which allow you to keep what you're using today and just visualize both of those environments in the same screen. And that's really also going down to the support. So if you have a problem with your on-premise environment or a problem with the vCloud hybrid service environment, you call the same support number, you call GSS, and you get the same support to help you resolve both problems. Because sometimes the problem isn't in one or the other, it's in the ability to move one thing to the other. And so that's where you want to be able to not have to call two different vendors, right? You don't want to have to call one vendor to help you resolve a problem on-premise and a different one off. So what exactly is the service is a stack that we are managing for you, right? So this is an infrastructure as a service offering. We own and operate and manage the bottom stuff. So the infrastructure, the basic compute, storage, and networking, those are all things that we're managing for you and allowing you to just consume or have your lines of business consume on demand. What I also want to show you is there's an ability to consume the OS catalogs, the application catalogs that we provide, or you can actually bring your own. So what that means is, let's say you want to build a new Windows Server 2008 image, you can actually build it fresh from our catalog, or you can take an image that you've already built, which is already standardized in your environment, and bring that over into our catalog. But we also have two different flavors of the vCloud hybrid service. We have a dedicated cloud offering and a virtual private cloud offering. Just wondering, how many people here are actually pretty familiar with vCloud Director and vCloud Director constructs? A handful? Okay, so if you're familiar with that, what you may be familiar with is the concept of org VDCs or ability to create multiple pools of resources. So on the right, on the virtual private cloud, you can think of the virtual private cloud as our multi-tenant offering where you get your own org VDC. On the left is your dedicated cloud, and if you understand that terminology, what that means is you get your entire environment so you can create multiple org VDCs. The other benefit of the dedicated cloud is it's a physically isolated offering, meaning you are not sharing your computer memory with anyone else. These are your own servers, and you can do with it what you want. What you see on the quantities here are actually what we start at. So these are the capacity pools that you start with, and you can go bigger from there. They're capacity pools. So that's a little different from what a lot of people associate with cloud. A lot of clouds out there have instances that you buy one at a time. We're not doing that. We're giving you a pool of resources that you can consume whatever way you want. So if you have one big VM that you want to take up all 120 gigabytes of RAM, you can do that. If you want 121 gigabyte RAM VMs, you can also do that. It's really anything in between. You create and consume the pool. Just some other notes between the dedicated cloud versus the virtual private cloud. What you also see is that both start at different storage amounts. And I'll walk through each of these in a little more detail, but this is persistent enterprise class storage. What we also include in our pricing is all of these other elements. And so this is also a little different from what other cloud services do today. What we try to do is make this very, very transparent and simple pricing so that you guys can easily understand what your pricing may be next month and the month after that. So it's very predictable, very transparent, it's all inclusive. So what we're not doing is we're not measuring your actual data throughput. We're not actually counting how much data is going out, in and out. We offer all of our advanced networking features built into the cost, so there's no extra cost for doing a VPN or load balancers. And one of the key things that's actually, I think, kind of a big differentiator for us is also that when you buy a capacity pool in vCloud Hybrid Service, you automatically get built-in HA capacity. So, like most people who have virtualized on VMware, you've already standardized around our vSphere HA. You're comfortable with it, you trust it, you know how it works, you know that if a host goes down, your VMs will get restarted on another host. It also helps you with maintenance because you're able to migrate. We have vMotion, so you can migrate workloads into another host, perform maintenance on the host, bring your workloads back. And all of these things are the same in vCloud Hybrid Service. So we give you that redundancy, we give you that higher uptime because we're not having to shut down your VMs when we shut down hosts to do maintenance. All right? One more thing about the different types of clouds. So as I said, we have these two flavors, the dedicated and the virtual private. You can actually have multiple instances within your environment. So you can have one dedicated cloud, 4 virtual private clouds. You could have 3 dedicated clouds, 2 virtual private clouds. And again, maybe the reason you have those different types of clouds is you have different user groups. Maybe you have different use cases where dedicated, you need certain capacity that is that physically isolated capacity, maybe for licensing reasons, maybe for security reasons, it has to be physically isolated, then you can use the dedicated cloud. If you have, let's say, a little more ephemeral workloads or things that are shorter term, you can use virtual private clouds as those have shorter term lengths. And part of our announcement and our launch back in May was that we are expanding to our 4 data center locations by the end of the year. So right now we are located in the Las Vegas data center, and we will be opening up data centers in Santa Clara, right here, in East Coast of Virginia, and then later this year in Dallas. So especially for you guys here, what you can be comfortable with is that the closer you are to the data center, the lower the network latency. And so therefore having a Santa Clara data center was actually really high on our list to address all of your needs. Okay, that was sort of the overview. A lot of you have probably seen those slides. I want to kind of go one step in to kind of go walk through what the actual compute, storage, and networking look like and how they are provided to you. But one of the things I want to talk about is the virtualization. I mean, a lot of you are here today because you have virtualized on vSphere. And that, to us, is a big reason we're going into the service with vSphere as our platform. We know a lot of you trust and have built processes and businesses around vSphere, and they're the same capabilities that vSphere brings to you today are the same capabilities we're going to support in this service. So, for example, we've always had a very workload agnostic or application neutral approach to virtualization, meaning we didn't care what you were trying to virtualize. We didn't have these silos. We don't want to play favorites with any type of workload. We want to play with all of them equally well. And so that allows us to support a broad set of operating systems. I think this is pretty key because a lot of businesses out there have workloads that have already been in existence for a long time, right? So you have things that are still running on Windows XP. You have things still running on RHEL 4. You still have workloads that have been built into these older operating systems. And a lot of the new cloud services out there won't support these workloads because they only do current or new operating systems. But because it's vSphere, and vSphere runs everything down to Windows NT, and even before, we can run your workloads. You also know that we worked really hard to get you guys comfortable with virtualizing what we call your business critical applications. So these are the Microsoft SQL applications, SAP, things like that. So what we're really trying to do is give you that same comfort in knowing that the stack that we offer is the same stack you're running in-house, meaning everything you feel comfortable virtualizing on-premise can be virtualized in our service. So let's kind of go into compute a little bit. I kind of already mentioned a lot of this already, so I'll go through this quickly. But again, we start with 30 gigahertz of compute on the dedicated cloud offering, 5 reserved gigahertz of compute on the virtual private cloud offering. And again, we give you that built-in HA capacity so that you don't have to worry about designing your applications for failure because it will recover when a host goes down. But the other piece that I really want to emphasize is remember that we're giving you a capacity pool. You're allowed to consume capacity any way you want. And in fact, you can change the size of your VM if you want to. So this is something that I think is very different from the other approaches that other vendors have, which is that you can create whatever size VM you want, and let's say 3 months down the road, that VM is getting oversubscribed, you can actually go ahead and add more CPU. You can go ahead and add more storage. You can add more disk to it. So this is something that allows you to think of this as a pool of a capacity, not an instance type. But I alluded to some of our advanced networking capabilities. If you guys have been following VMware, you know that we launched a pretty strong set of networking capabilities through what used to be called vShield, and it's now called vCloud Networking and Security. But we're using that technology in our service today, which allows us to give you virtual networking and network virtualization capabilities that are parallel to what you would be running on premise. And so, for example, built-in firewall and NAT, built-in VPN abilities to do site-to-site, and it's also something where you can carve out multiple IP spaces within your cloud to make it very flexible for whatever you're running. We're also allowing you to leverage some of our advanced LAN technology for that isolation between our org networks so that you can actually port your IP addresses over. So I'll just skip to this slide real fast and I'll set up a story. If you think about it, today with vCloud Hybrid Service, we can give you up to 9 different routable IP spaces, and these can be replicated from your on-premise IP networks. So the backstory is, if you go into some of the other cloud services out there, you're forced to use their IP pools, right? Because they have to somehow prevent one customer from interrupting another customer's network because you're using the same addresses. Again, we have VXLAN for that isolation so that you can actually create and use any IP addresses you want and not worry that this will conflict with another customer's IP addresses. So the biggest benefit that I've seen from this, and a lot of customers have told us, is that everything you have internally, you have your 10 dot whatever network that's already existing, and you build VMs to be connected to that network. The benefit of vCHS is you can move that VM into vCloud Hybrid Service and maintain that connection, so you don't have to reroute everything. So let's think of another example, which is, let's say you guys know what vApps are, where you kind of create I don't know what to call it, a bubble around your set of VMs. So if you have, like, say, 5 VM vApp, and you design all the interconnects to be working in a certain way, what you can do is take that whole vApp package, move it into vCloud Hybrid Service, and it maintains all of those interconnects. So you don't have to sit there and reconnect every single VM and how they should talk to each other. You get to copy that whole setting over. And that's what I'm going to show here, is this ability we call data center extensions, and it's something that we can allow you to take your layer 2 networks that exist on premise and extend it out to the cloud. But it's also about your firewall and NAT rules. And I actually think this is a security problem that a lot of other clouds have, which is a lot of security gaps in public cloud end up being human error because people just didn't understand the constructs of the security firewalls or the constructs and how to define some of the rules. I've heard, some companies have very desegregated networking teams versus infrastructure teams, or people who are VI admins who don't really touch networking at all. And so this is kind of the problem with some of the other cloud services, is that when you create a VM, you kind of have to understand networking, whereas in our service, we actually allow you to federate the roles to allow your networking guy access to set up the networks, and the user or the line of business user simply consumes those networks. So there is also this opportunity for the federation. On the storage side, I mentioned we have block level persistent storage. This starts with 6 terabytes on the dedicated cloud and 2 terabytes on the virtual private cloud. The biggest benefit I just want to mention here is that this is something you don't have to worry about because we're managing it for you. So what we're doing is we're managing the performance and constantly retiering our disks to make sure that you get the optimal performance. So the last 2 pieces that I'll talk about is how do you actually get data into the cloud, because most of you will even though we're going to have a data center in Santa Clara, most of you know uploading large files through basic internet kind of sucks. So we have a couple of things to provide to ease that ability to move your VMs into this service. One is the vCloud connector capability. This is a free tool that you have access to today. All you need on premise is vSphere 4.1 or above, and you can use the vCloud connector basic capabilities, which allow you to copy VMs over to the vCloud hybrid service. The other benefit of vCloud connector is, let's say something fails at some point in time, it'll kind of keep track of where you were in place, so you don't have to start from scratch. So if you were like 30% progress and something happened, it'll just continue after that. The other way is if you have large amount of data, then you can actually use our offline data transfer, which is where we ship you a disk, you upload it, send it back to us, and we'll upload it into your environment. So that's 2 of the 4 ways. There's actually 2 other ways we have that are shown here. One is WAN acceleration, and the last one is just a simple, there's a Java app tool that allows you to do the copy as well. And the final thing I'll talk about is another part of the service, which is built-in data protection service. This is actually sort of in a beta right now, but it is offered as a free service. So what that does is allow you to back up the VMs that you have in our cloud. And like I said, for now it's a free service. It's a nightly backup with a 30-day retention policy. So if at any point you need to go back to a previous copy, then you can actually just open a ticket and we'll reload that for you. All right, the fun stuff. What does it actually look like? So this is a new service. And so what we try to do is create a new portal that makes it easy for you and your end customers to be able to consume and use on their own without as much guidance from you. And so what we have here, and I'm just going to walk through a couple of points. This is sort of the new dashboard. When you log in, this is what you first see. What you'll see is that you can actually, if this is a dedicated cloud offering, and like I was mentioning before, you can create separate org VDCs or virtual data centers within this offering. So we've created a pool called the SharePoint and a pool called VPC VMware. But each of these have been allocated a certain amount of our total capacity. So we've subdivided this big pool of capacity into smaller pools of capacity, and each of these are logically isolated from another, so you can guarantee sort of performance. So for example, if SharePoint is it's kind of a funny example, but if SharePoint were your business critical application, you allocate a pool for that, and then you are assured that they will always get at least that performance. That pool and the VMs in that pool will always get at least 10 gigahertz of CPU, 24 gigs of memory. The other thing I'll show you here is here. So we do we have a lot of different role types. But for example, let's say that you have this dedicated cloud and you're consuming it and you're starting to run out of capacity. It's a single click which will take you back to my VMware for you to add on capacity to your cloud. So it's a very fast, this is where it really I think sinks in that this is on demand. So it's on demand access to capacity. You can just single click, get into it, and purchase more capacity. And I will show you now, if I click into SharePoint, like I said, that VDC, that virtual data center, has its own view and its own capacity pool that you can begin to consume. It's hard to see the lines, but those are the little names on top are tabs. So there's different tabs within here. So there's Virtual Machine Gateway Network Users tab. Oh, one more thing I'll point out here. Once you're inside this portal, if you want to do advanced things, if you want to do some crazy advanced networking, what you will actually do is take you to vCloud Director. So if you think about it, this is a hosted vCloud Director, that instance that is yours to access. So you use that link, you click into it, you get the whole vCloud Director UI. We've just layered our portal on top of vCloud Director in a sense. This is the virtual machine tab within the data center. And what you see here is you can see the names of who created the VMs, what type they are, and the names of everything. And if you click on each of those buttons, you can turn it on, turn it off, pause, suspend, register for backup, unregister for backup, all of those operations. I'm just showing again, when you create a new virtual machine, how you can adjust the actual virtual machine size here. Okay, so user management, I mentioned a couple times the role federation. And so what I'm showing you is the ability to give new users a mix of administrative rights. So for example, if you want to prevent some of your employees from being able to purchase more capacity, because we have to go through a purchasing process for that, then you just would restrict the subscription administrator role. So you just don't click that, they won't get that little button to add more capacity. Only the individuals with this role enabled have the ability to do that. Same with when I talk about the network administrative role. So if you want to restrict the ability to create gateways and firewall rules to certain individuals, you only give them access to these rights. And if you have pure end users, you can't see this, but it's the end user, they can only consume all of those things then. They can't actually create. All right, any questions so far? I've been talking for a while. Sure, I'm gonna walk up because I have horrible hearing.
Well, you said you layered your own portal on top of it. What tool did you use to build the portal?
Oh gosh, what did you used to go to portal? I don't know.
So it's just custom web development that you did.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Okay. So you didn't use another VMware tool to be able to customize the UI. And,
Yeah, it's really, like I said, it's like a layer on top of the VCD instance. So it's communicating with it and grabbing information, but it's meant to be very user-friendly.
Is the dedicated pool a reservation pool in vCloud?
Yeah.
Okay. And what are we using for data protection? Is it our own data protection?
So as a service, so this is a little different, right? Just you'll notice I kind of hand waved over certain details. Because this is a service, I'm just going to call it the secret sauce behind the service, which you guys consume. So what we will share with you is the performance, the behaviors, the SLAs, but we're not going to talk about like what storage we're using, what servers we're using, all that stuff. That's not really standard for services. So.
Well, the backup tool would be application aware.
What's that?
The backup tool that you're using would be application aware, so it would be able to
Yes.
back up. Okay.
Yes. So you can do file level restores and what you guys would probably be aware of, or comfortable with. Any other questions so far?
Are you leveraging the Nicira acquisition there?
I'm so sorry.
The Nicira. Are you using the Nicira? Where?
Not at this point, and I'll just say that. We're using the vCloud network and security tools that we have. I believe that will be something we will talk about on the roadmap. Okay, common use cases. I just want what questions?
So do you support VXLAN?
Yes. We are using VXLAN internally in the constructs.
So can I extend the VXLAN into your hosted environment?
Yes. So you don't have to. You can use a basic VLAN and extend that into our environment. But if you have VXLAN too, that works. So we have had two betas. We've had a beta that started last year. We had a beta in March leading up to launch. And we're currently in our early access program, which started in May. And so we have a group of customers that we've been working with and using these early customers to help understand more about what problems they're trying to solve, what type of workloads they're putting into the service. So I just wanted to share a little bit about that. So these are sort of the groups and categories of applications that our early customers are interested in using the service for. I'm going to highlight a few. For example, on the top, email collaboration. This was really big. The ability to do SharePoint and Exchange in our vCloud microservice is something that a lot of customers were interested in. We also have a lot of customers doing traditional web and e-commerce tools. I'll talk about one early access customer today. They are a retail operation with a lot of branch locations. They're starting to implement some data analytics for their retail stores on the POS terminals. And so they're actually wanting to deploy the data analytics in a cloud solution so that they can choose multiple data centers to deploy this in. Closer access to the actual retail branches versus in their data center itself, meaning they can actually provide that sort of performance and close geographical locations to support it. Another story on the web of e-commerce is a company who is a traditional software vendor, but they're about 20-year-old software company. Well, I have a slide on that shortly, so I'll talk about that then. Let me just go into these. So one of our big customers was the city of Melrose. I like their story because they were pretty innovative. They're a small city near Boston, but they had a pretty mature IT department. And what they realized is they can do IT better than a lot of their neighboring cities. And so what they've actually turned their business model into is an IT service company that serves neighboring communities. So not only do they support the IT for their own city, but they're also selling their services and their capabilities to neighboring cities. Because of that, they've adopted vCloud Director as their way to do the isolation and service the other communities and keep everything safe and separated. But they are located in a single geographic location, right? They're not multi-data center, enterprise company. And so for them, this single data center location problem is really, really scary to them. Because if anything happens, like the big storm in New Jersey or anything like that, they're locked into their location. So for them, this was about geographic diversity and backup. How do we maintain our environment, but also have something sitting somewhere else that if something happens here, we can always go to this other location. And so the compatibility of our service to their environment was key, right? Because your backup can't be something that you have to completely re-architect for. They wanted it to be the matching what they have on premise. And so that's why they were really interested in being part of our beta. Now, as a side note, there's an interesting use case. Like I said, they are also an IT services company now. They're selling services. So one of the things they want to do is host Exchange for other cities. And so they'll run that in the cloud and actually sell Exchange access for those other cities. The other story I wanted to talk about was PlanView. PlanView is this traditional software company, so like a lot of companies in the Bay Area. They have their own set of software that's about 10 to 15 years old. It is a portfolio management software and was traditionally sold as packaged software. But what they saw was the shift from packaged software to SaaS. And so they're seeing this trend where most of their business growth is in the SaaS business, but how are they going to get to SaaS quickly if they have all this software that's already been programmed and built? So what they realized they could do is it really is a 5 VM offering, and they could actually package it as a V app. And they are today running their SaaS business in their data center as a V app. And so it's a virtualized VM that they're running, hosted, and then their customers purchase the services. Now the interesting thing is, okay, that helped them get to this SaaS model, but if that's their business, if their business is software, their business is not running infrastructure. Their business is more about giving the software to these customers. And so for them, the importance of managing their own infrastructure is reduced. And so for that short term, medium term, they are looking at vCloud Hybrid Service more as, again, another backup data center or geographic diversity. But longer term, they're going, we don't need to be in the infrastructure hosting business. We can simply consume those infrastructure resources from our cloud and continue investing more in the software itself. So this is a great use case because I think there's a lot of there's a lot of sexy stories about people adopting cloud, but a lot of the people who are adopting cloud today, and I'm talking about like the AWS type of cloud, they're net new applications. They're new applications built specifically for that environment to leverage all of that environment. There are a lot of companies who already have software that they don't want to redesign for that environment. So what do you do with your existing software that you want to put in the cloud? Again, because this is the same platform that you run in-house, you just package it up and move it over. All right, so finally, I just want to talk about if you want to learn more. Well, this is the VMUG meeting, but we are also presenting at the local VMUG conferences. So if there's a conference, if you are traveling somewhere and there's a big conference and you can attend. Also, please visit our new website, which is vCloud.vmware.com. This has a lot of the service definitions, our SLAs, our pricing, all of that is here on the website. And we are still taking customers into our early access program, so if this is interesting to you, if you've got some urgent needs, please go ahead and contact us and let us know. We will continue the early access program until GA later this year. And that's it. I'll take final questions before passing. Yeah.
It's interesting that how's the pricing of obviously how's the pricing compared to what you have put on a data center for customer market?
So so a lot of our pricing is actually based on actually trying to match the market. So we are very comparable to other cloud service pricing, and so even though we're selling pools of capacity where others are selling instances, we have matched our pricing on a per gigabyte or gram type of basis. And so what you'll see is we're very cost competitive versus other cloud services. The cost comparison to, say, running it on your own infrastructure, it depends, right? Because it depends on how highly virtualized you are, how many VMs per host you use internally. There's a lot of ways to calculate that. But all in, you can think of it as the cost is much more competitive to other cloud service providers out there, cloud service providers out there, and then also it's a difference between CapEx versus OpEx spending, right? So when you're building your in-house infrastructure, you're paying for the servers, the storage, the licenses, everything like that, and that's a big CapEx investment. In a cloud, you're paying a monthly bill, so it's more of an OpEx expense. In the back.
Jenny, I wonder if you could elaborate on the city of Melrose, and it seems like their recovery time objective, they're not replicating to the cloud. It's their backup. So the recovery time objective is not.
Yes, not super fast.
But they have
Yeah, so we do know one of the top use cases for cloud or top interest in cloud is more disaster recovery, like SRM type of capabilities. That's something that's very high importance to us, and I'll just say it's on the roadmap right now. All right, that's it.
About cloud foundry, right?
Yes, that's something we're also actively working on, to make Cloud Foundry something you can consume on top of vCHS, and so then you kind of turn our infrastructure as a service into a platform as a service.
How about the collateral competing with your customers?
So that's a good question. This comes up often. My point on that is, the cloud is really, we're still, I believe, in the early stages of cloud. There's a huge cloud market out there. We all often use this term, rising tide rises all ships. And so for us, it's about getting customers comfortable with cloud, right? Pushing customers into cloud at all, which actually, I think, benefits all of the vCloud service providers. And the thing is, there's a couple of good blogs I can share with you, I'll forward to you. But it's also, a lot of the vCloud service providers see the opportunity as we're going to have our service, and it's going to look like X. They're going to have the ability to add on to that, right? Or specialize. Maybe they're healthcare specialty, or maybe they're specific in Alaska, or something like that. There's abilities to build on top of that.
You said GA. Do you have anything you can share about GA date?
Q3 is what I can tell you. Which is later this quarter, so yeah. All right, thank you guys so much for your time. I don't know if you guys have a break or.